A boat came to help them, and they rocket launched the boat.
I got refused to board plane.
A ballistic missile was intercepted mid-air right outside our hotel.
She went on a boat tour for the day, came back to her hostel. The whole hostel burned out.
Lost my passport. It was the scariest, worst feeling.
Oh shoot, like I just put my passport in the trash.
My ex-girlfriend who I'm still in love with is stuck in Saudi Arabia. Can you get her home?
We started crying in front of her like two crazy person.
Everything was a lesson. Everything worked itself out eventually, but it makes you smarter. You learn from every lesson that you go through.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Episode 10.
We're so excited. This is our craziest stories episode.
Oh yeah, we have good stories for you. Because when you're solo traveling, of course, well, not even solo traveling. When you're traveling, of course, you're going to have problems. You're going to have challenges. But at the end of the day, it's really good stories. So we'll share the best ones with you. What inspired this video is that a few weeks ago, I saw this girl on TikTok. And it went viral. Maybe some of you saw it. And this girl, I think she was in Guatemala or somewhere in Central America. And she was saying that she went on a boat tour for the day, came back to her hostel, and the hostel went on fire. The whole hostel burned out. So she lost all of her clothes. She lost her passport, which is my worst nightmare. She lost everything. And she just came back with a swimsuit and a cute dress, and that's it. Everything went on fire. And I think this is the craziest story I've ever heard.
That's literally insane.
I know. Because
you're already traveling with so little, to then have all of it burned down and you have nothing I can't even imagine what she did. And you're also in Guatemala, the things you need, you might not be able to find there. And it makes me wonder, are you the kind of person who brings their passport everywhere, or do you leave it back at your hotel or hostel?
Oh my God, that's such a good. Well, the caption of her reel, the hook on her reel was I went on a boat tour and didn't bring my passport because I was scared of I don't know, something happening with the boat and losing my passport, and that's why she left it at the hostel. But I'm really the kind of person that leaves it at the hotel or hostel all the time.
I'm the exact same.
Yeah. I feel like it's way more risky. There's way more chance of getting especially in Central America or South America, getting your bag stolen than actually someone opening your locker with the lock.
I totally agree. I feel way safer keeping it there. I literally never bring it because it's true. You also know if somebody did break into your room, it's either going to be somebody that works there, one of the staff members, or somebody that stayed with you. So I feel like there's just more of a chance if it were stolen to be found than a random person running by you and grabbing your bag.
Exactly.
And which I think that's way more common than
so much common. Yeah. But then, yeah, I think losing your passport, this whole situation with the fire, I think it's so, yes, it's so sad to lose your clothes. It's so sad to lose your shampoo, whatever. But losing your passport is a really, really big challenge. Because at the end of the day, and I think we've talked about it in other episodes, if you forget to bring something or if you lose something, you can always buy it. There's always a chance. Yes, it might not be your favorite dress or it might not be your special shampoo, but there's always a way to buy it wherever you are on the planet. But a passport, it's so complicated.
It's so complicated.
It's worst nightmare ever.
I know. I talked about this in one of our earlier episodes, but I lost my passport only for 5 hours in LAX at the airport. It just fell on the ground. And I had a flight later that night. I literally landed that morning and I had a flight later that night. Lost my passport. It was the scariest, worst feeling for any traveler. Yeah. Obviously, it was a fluke incident that I dropped it somewhere. But I'm curious what she did. Like her whole trip was probably changed because she had to go to the embassy, and like you don't know how long that will take necessarily. It's just so
It
complicated.
is. I remember when I was in Egypt, our guide, we were talking about like, cause I did a group trip to Egypt, and our guide, like, he had new groups every like 2 weeks, and we were asking him like, what was the worst thing that ever happened with the group, and he was telling us that one time they went at the restaurant, and this girl, I don't know why, she had like a plate with like not a plate, like what's the thing to hold
A
your,
tray.
yeah, a tray with your plate, her food, and she put her passport on there. I don't know why. And then they ate and everything, and then she put like the stuff on the tray in the trash with the passport. And like 2 hours later, she realized like, oh shoot, like I just put my passport in the trash. So
No.
yes, and then the guide, he was like, "Are you stupid?" Didn't say that, but that was in his head. And then he came back at the restaurant, asked the staff to like look into the trash, and they opened all the trash of the restaurant, and they found it again.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they found the passport back, but I was like, "See, if you leave your passport at the hotel, so much easier. This will never happen to you."
Exactly. And like obviously things happen, like the hostel burned down.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to take like a minor risk either way, and I just think for me I always feel better with it at the hostel or
Yeah.
hotel.
Same. Yes, it like, I mean, the odds of your hostel getting on fire are really low, but
Yeah.
the odds of like your bag getting stolen in Central or South America, much higher. Just leave it.
Much
Yeah,
higher.
just leave it. And I know a lot of people might be scared to leave their stuff at hostels, because I know that I'm traveling like with all my computer, camera, everything, and I often get asked the question like, aren't you scared of like leaving all of your stuff at the hostel? But honestly, like, people at the hostel are just other travelers. They don't want you to like, they don't want to steal you stuff, and you have a locker with your own lock. It's not even like from the hostel, so you have your own password, your own lock. Nobody's gonna like cut your lock. So honestly, I feel like it's super safe. It's even like safer than at a hotel with like just leaving your stuff in
The
what-
lockbox?
yeah, the lockbox, because the lockbox, the hotel has full control of it, but at the hostel it's really your own lock. So
Yeah.
by the way, I just thought about another story. That's a crazy story.
Can I say one more thing about the
Yes.
passport? I think if you are nervous to leave it, you can obviously get those belts that go
Yeah.
under your clothing.
I had that when I started.
And you can do that too. Like it just depends on what you want. This is just what we do, but you can get one of those belts that goes around your body and under your clothes.
Yeah, but if you're trying this, because I tried it, did you try it?
No.
I'm a sweaty person,
Oh God.
and honestly, it like, I got like so many like, it got just so like wet and disgusting. So
Okay.
lasted like 1 week, and then I was like, moving on.
Well, maybe don't do that though.
No, don't do that. But I was gonna say, because with the logbox, one of my friend, well, maybe some of you know her because she's a content creator. It's Through the Lens, Chaz.
I know her, yeah.
Yeah. She's amazing. And when she started her journey as a content creator, she was telling me that they were, I think it was Zanzibar or Tanzania, somewhere in this area. And they had a collab for 1 month. And they were like with a chain of hotel, and they were like moving around and like taking photos and stuff. And it was really at the beginning. I think she had like 4,000 followers or something. So, like at the beginning, you're not really paid to be a content creator. Like your camera gear is like all your life. And she was traveling with her boyfriend. And one night they were both sleeping, and someone went in the room, stole all the camera gear while they were in the room sleeping, and they didn't realize it. They just woke up the next morning, all the camera gear gone.
What?
Yes. This is like so scary. And I feel like she was like, I'm so glad that my boyfriend was there, because like, it's like you have someone to protect you, kind
Yeah.
of. But as a solo traveler, if like this thing happened, I would be like, I would move out. I don't know.
And also, if you're in the room sleeping, you're not going to put your things in the lockbox at that time. So,
No.
but it's just crazy to think that they slept through that.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it just goes to show how sound sleepers they are. But yeah, I don't think I would ever expect somebody to come in my room at night,
I
steal all of my stuff.
I know, and that's so scary. And my mom, the same happened to her, and she was like, I think she was in Spain because she was a solo traveler when she was younger, also. And she was in Spain and she was sleeping, and someone like broke in and stole her stuff, but she like slept in. But then in this same like hotel, some people woke up and they got like bitten up by the guy, like the stoler, like just because if you wake up and there's someone in your room stealing stuff, the person stealing might like you don't know how he's gonna react. And my mom was like, I'm so glad I slept through it because he didn't harm me, he didn't do anything to me. But other people in the hotel that woke up while the guy was in the room stealing stuff, they got like beaten up and like really bad.
Yeah,
So
like in a way, they were both all protected because they were sleeping. Because it's true.
yes,
I think
exactly.
if they were a witness to who was stealing their things, then like
You
obviously
don't
they would
know.
report them.
Exactly, and it's like the person might have a gun. You don't know who's the stealer, especially like in some countries. Sometimes it's more dangerous.
That's insane. I mean but that's what we're talking about traveling like.
Yeah.
And this episode is so not meant to scare anybody. Like
No, please.
Beatrice and I were thinking like what are some of the things that have happened to us, and like I feel like I can look back on all of my quote unquote craziest stories and everything was a lesson. Everything like worked itself out eventually, but in the moment when you are traveling, things happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have
We have crazy story, but like Emma said, we don't want to scare you. The goal is just to like this is just for entertainment and just to show you the side of travel that travel cannot will not always goes as you planned. And it's part of traveling, and I think it's also the beauty of traveling because you might have like challenges, but you might also have like really amazing surprises. So it's part of the journey, but it's still worth it. We still
yeah,
have um I think I would go through them all over again, and I don't care because I've learned to through all
same.
of the crazy stories.
Yeah, and I think it just makes you a stronger traveler.
Yeah,
And like it makes you smarter. You learn from every lesson that you go through,
yeah,
you know?
and also I think that so the first time it happens to you, it's super scary, and then like you just kind of get used to like, oh, this is a new problem from my traveling journey, and then you're like, oh, I handled all of these problems in the past. I know I can handle it in the future. So I feel like it also helps with confidence, and like the more you have, the more you're like kind of confident, and you're like, it always works out. So like might as just well like handle this new challenge.
Yeah, and anytime I'm like, oh, I wish that didn't happen, I'm like, okay, but I'm so glad this happened. So next time I'm prepared and I know and
Exactly.
I won't do it this way, like whatever the situation is.
Yeah. I think all COVID was like a big challenge for all the traveler all over the planet. It was like kind of something general that nobody really saw coming, and I think you had like a
I
crazy story
I
about
had
that.
such a crazy COVID story. And mine actually started right like weeks before COVID started, if not like 1 week before. But I was offered a job in Saudi Arabia for 7 weeks at the Four Seasons to perform. And I said yes because I'd never been to the Middle East and I just thought it'd be a really unique experience. So I was one of the singers, and then we had a guitarist from Ukraine and then another singer from Australia. So I got super close to the Australian girl just because it was so nice to have, you know, another English speaker and
Yeah.
we really connected. But yeah, I flew out. Everything was normal. COVID was not a thing yet. Um, and it was interesting because my driver who picked me up from the airport, he said, this is the first year in Saudi Arabia, it was 2020, where like tourists could come to the country, basically.
Okay.
I think like on a more like on an easier visa.
Okay.
I'm sure they could come before that
Yeah.
potentially, but he was saying like this is when we opened up the tourist visa. So it was a very, very new experience for Saudi Arabia to have tourists come. Let alone it was illegal for public performance in Saudi Arabia up until like the year or two before. because it was against their religion, I think is what he was describing to me. So they actually had to get performance permits for us to perform at the Four Seasons.
Wow.
So there's just like so many things involved in this story. But basically, we do our first performance. It was only 1 hour because they had to shut it down because they finally came up to us after the performance and said, we didn't get the permits. So until we get the permits, you guys can't perform. So every day they're texting us, we still don't have the permits. We still don't have the permits. This went on for 2 weeks.
Wow. And you were just staying in your room?
And we
what
were
you doing?
No, we were traveling.
Okay.
So we met some really cool guys. They were actually originally from Palestine. We met them in our hotel. And then they had immigrated to Jordan, I believe, when they were younger. But they were amazing. So they showed us all around the city because they were living there. And we went to the desert with them. We went to some really nice restaurants.
Okay, so you had a great time.
We pretty much had a vacation for 2 weeks because they never got the permit. So we didn't work once. So after those 2 weeks is when COVID started.
Yeah. And it went so fast. COVID, like, was just...
It came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and, like, obviously nobody was prepared for it.
No.
Because some people were kind of rude to me after, saying, like, why would you go during COVID? I'm like, well, COVID hadn't started yet, and I've never experienced a pandemic, as nobody else has in our generation, and even our parents' generation.
We had no idea.
So we had no idea how
No.
extreme it would be.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the first 2 weeks were amazing. We went to markets. We went to the desert. Like, we did so many things. So I'm really grateful for that. COVID hit. Then we were on lockdown. So we couldn't leave our rooms from from like 3 p.m. until 6 a.m. the next day. So we could only go outside for a couple of hours. And then we had to be in our rooms.
Oh my God.
I mean,
could you walk around like in the hotel? Could you like...
You could walk around the hotel,
Okay.
but you couldn't step outside.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. And this is the nicest hotel in the capital city. There was no gym for the women. It was only male. And it was a huge, beautiful gym. Only males could go in.
Ugh.
The spa women couldn't use.
Really?
Any of the amenities, it was male only. And because my Australian friend and I went to the reception and we said, is there not a gym for women as well? He said, well, actually, we're renting one of the rooms on the 10th floor. We're putting a treadmill in for the women.
Oh my
So you guys
God.
can use that.
Just one treadmill in the room.
One treadmill. And the men literally have the most gorgeous gym. It was crazy. But you know what? Like, it was insane, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, like, there wasn't much to do when we're locked in our rooms. We couldn't use any amenities. And so then this when like crazy shit started happening. One night it was like 10 p.m. and I was hanging out in my room, and all of a sudden I hear the biggest explosion ever. Huge explosion. And I'm like, that's weird. What was that? So I texted my friend. I'm like, did you hear that? And she was like, yeah. But we didn't know what it was. It was late. We both went to bed. The next morning we wake up and it's all over the news that a ballistic missile
What?
a ballistic missile was basically intercepted midair right outside our hotel, because we're in I think it's called the Kingdom Center or the Freedom. It's like the biggest building in Riyadh, and it was exploded right outside our building. It was intercepted by the Saudi
Like
military.
somebody was trying to attack
Yes.
the hotel.
Yeah.
Or-
So there's a proxy war happening in Yemen, right?
Yeah.
But it's really between Iran and Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia. So technically it was like the Iranian military that they said that sent it, but it was coming from Yemen. But because the Saudi military is so strong, they intercepted it, exploded in midair, but it was going to shoot through our building because the palace where the royalty lived was on the other side.
Oh
But
my.
So the
God.
explosion was the interception of the ballistic missile.
And that's crazy. How come I never heard the story before?
And so my Australian friend and I, Beck, we went down to our manager, who randomly happened to be from Orange County, California. And he was so chill. He's like, you guys, it's fine. Like, there was a missile the other day too that you didn't know about. And this was the size of a car.
What?
He was like, you guys should go to Lebanon if you're scared. Like, this happens all the time there. Don't worry. And we're both like, we want to go home now, because at this point, COVID was happening. We weren't performing.
Yeah.
And there were missiles going off.
Yeah, that's so sketchy.
There's also so much royalty in Saudi Arabia. We had a prince living the floor above us that had the whole floor. And he'd like have parties, and like the music would be so loud I couldn't sleep. Anyway, so
Oh my God.
this manager was like, girls, it's fine. Like, just chill. It's not that big of a deal. We're like, we want to go home. So Beck and I, she's obviously Australian, I'm American. We both were like continually speaking to our embassies there. And we're like, we want to go home. We couldn't get real flights. Every flight we booked, they canceled it because there were literally 0 flights. So for days we were trying to fly home, which we were flown out by our agencies.
Yeah.
So they technically were needing to buy our flights home. But like, we couldn't get home. So I'm calling my embassy every single day for a week, and they're like, there's nothing we can do right now. There's so many Americans trapped in Riyadh. And finally, it was like 7 days that I had called, and actually one of my ex-boyfriends, like, he had a connection with the government in the US.
Oh, nice.
He called and been like, my girlfriend, well, you know, it was complicated. We were broken up by then.
My situationship.
My like ex-girlfriend, who I'm still in love with, is stuck in Saudi Arabia. Can you get her home? And then literally the next day is when I got a flight.
You kidding?
But so they called me and they said, you have 2 hours to pay $1,900 US.
That's insane.
And your spot will be gone if you can't send the money in 2 hours. I'm like 29 at this point. So that's
that's a lot of money.
And this was not covered by my agency or anything.
That's insane.
So I called my mom. She's like, of course, like obviously we're buying the ticket.
Yeah.
And the problem is they never called me back. So they were like, we're going to call you back in 2 hours and tell us if you can be on this flight. They never call back. It's maybe 4 minutes until the 2 hour mark. I like am crying because this was my only option. I go down to the reception, and they were such nice people, and they did it online for me, and they booked my ticket. It was literally like 30 seconds before it was closed. Got the ticket, and then the next day I flew home during COVID. And it was literally, I was so paranoid too, because we didn't know anything about a pandemic. So I was so nervous about COVID, and like, you just are hearing the worst of the worst of the worst.
Yeah. And media were like,
it was so scary.
It was so scary.
But yeah, then I got home, and that was honestly the craziest story of my life.
I'm speechless. It's just, what?
It was insane.
Oh my God. That was insane. I knew the end of this story, but I never heard the full story. That's insane. And I think like it made me think, because this was, I think so many people had problem at the beginning of COVID because of that. Because like no government in the world had an idea how to manage the situation. But also for me, like and I guess you experience it also, but when we started traveling after COVID, so around like 2022, it was crazy in the airports. I don't know if you like can relate to that, but I had so many problems with my flights. And one of mine, well, actually, the first summer I started traveling again, I had like at least like 3 problems with the same airline. I won't say their name. But
say their name.
I can't, because I signed a contract. I literally sued them.
What?
Yeah. I never told you this.
No, you told me that, but I didn't know you could never speak about it.
I can tell the story, but without telling their names. Because I sued them, and then I made $2,000. Plus I have a voucher of like $400 plus like a 15% discount for next flight. Yeah, it's
wow. And if you speak about them, then they can come for you. Like
I guess so. I'm not gonna risk it. But I can still say the story. So I'm gonna say the story. But anyways, it's like after COVID, it was just like with this specific airline. I don't know why all my flights were with them, but I had like 3 problems because the airports were crazy. So this is like probably the biggest one is that I got refused to board plane.
That's sounds so crazy.
I know. And like, I don't know if you were there. I was telling this story to Alex and he was like, what? Were you crazy? Like, what
Yeah,
did
I
you
was
do?
there. He's just picturing you like manic or
Yeah.
something. He would say
I,
that.
yeah, I was not crazy, by the way. I was just like, yeah. So I'll tell you the story because I feel like a lot of people can learn from that because this is something you don't know and it can happen to you. So it was when we went to Iceland, my best friend and I. Our flight was Montreal, Toronto, Toronto, Reykjavik. And in the morning, our flight Montreal, Toronto was canceled because of the weather.
Mm.
And then Toronto Reykjavik was still going on. So we were like, well, if it's canceled because of the weather, we looked at the weather. It was like, it was saying that it was like a mix of snow and rain and whatever. It was bad. So we were like, there's no chance they're going to put us on another flight. Let's not take a risk and let's take a train to Toronto and then take our flight Toronto to Reykjavik. So that's what we did. We bought the ticket and went on a train to go to Toronto. And when we are on the train, I had no idea airlines can do that. They uncanceled the flight.
What?
Yeah, I don't even know it was possible. Uncanceled. I mean, you just canceled it. We took a solution and then you uncanceled it. Whatever.
How long in between was it that they canceled?
Like
and
maybe 1 hour, but we just freaked out because this was like 2 weeks after I had like a huge story. I'm not gonna say it here but I had problem with the same airline and I had to sleep at the airport because of them. They canceled another of my flight like 2 weeks before that. I had so many problems with them and like I had to sleep at the airport. It was awful. And so I was just kind of traumatized. And I like, as soon as we received like the cancellation for the flight, I was like, we're not taking risk. Last time it took me like 12 hours to get another flight. Not taking risk. We bought like the train ticket right away, jumped on the train. And on the train, they were like, okay, we uncanceled your flight, but we were on the train. So we just said like, you know what? We're just going to stay on the train, arrive at Toronto and take our flight from there. It doesn't matter. So we're on the train. We arrive at Pearson Airport in Toronto 4 hours before a flight. 4 hours. And then we're like at the gate, like really like a long time before. And so we're just at the gate waiting, so ready. And when it's time to board, we do the line, we arrive at the counter, and she like scanned our boarding pass because we had boarding pass. We went through security. We had everything. Like no one, like it takes so many, like they scan so often your boarding pass in the airport. Like we went through the whole process, through security, no problem. Everything was scanning. We were like literally at the gate, and then we arrive at the counter, and the girl is like, "Oh, your boarding pass are not working," and we're like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, your ticket has been canceled," and we're like, "What?" And then she's like, "Yes, like I cannot let you in the plane. Like your tickets are not working." And we're like, wait a second. And I'm like, we're like we're showing her boarding pass, like her receipt, everything. Like we're showing her everything, and she's like, "Well, it doesn't work. Like you should like just go to the." I'm not gonna say the name of the company, but their counter, it's like a little bit further down in the hallway. Just go there and try to like fix the situation. So we're like, okay. So we like started running in the airport. We arrive at the counter, but because it was like after COVID, there were so many problems with flight. The line was insane. And so we're like, shit, like there's so many people, like we're not gonna like go through. So we're like asking people in the line, like, hey, can we skip? Like our flight is literally like leaving in 5 minutes. Can we just like, do you mind if we skip the line? And like, we just need to talk to someone from this at the counter. And people were so rude. They were like, no, I'm sorry. We also missed our flight. You can miss your flight too.
What?
Yes. I was like, what?
Even though you still had a chance to get on your flight.
Yeah. I remember the face of this bitch. And like she was the next one online. And she was like, well, everyone in the line missed their flight. You like, why would you go first? And I was like, well, we still have a chance. And she was like, I'm sorry, no. Like, just do the line like everybody. And I was like, oh my God, you're such a bitch. But anyways, because of that, we never like, they never let us, like, it was her. But like everyone in the line was like, no, I'm sorry. And I was like, you guys are so rude. Like, we still have a chance. Anyways, like ran back to the gate. And we're like, let's try to just convince the girl at the counter. And we're like, the line is too long. Like, nobody wants to, like, it's impossible to talk to someone. And she's like, I'm so sorry, but like, I just gave your seat to someone else. Like, there's no chance. Like, there's no room for you in the plane. Sorry, we can't let you in the plane. And she was like, I'm closing the door. And she closed the door in front of us. And then we see the plane leaving in front of us. And you know how drama queen I am? My best friend
No,
is...
what do you mean?
My best friend is the same. 2, drama queen. Honestly, this would have made a really great video. We started crying in front of her, like 2 crazy person ever. Because at this point, it was like, the flight was like at 1 a.m. So like, we were so tired of the whole journey. We started crying, and then we sit on the chairs and we're just like crying and screaming in the airport. Like, for like literally 30 minutes, we're just crying, not moving, just like crying. And the girl is like, she doesn't care. She's like, pfft. And then there's a couple, like an old couple, like arriving at the gate like 30 minutes later. And they're like, oh, shoot, like we missed our flight. And we're like, wait, were you like on the flight to Reykjavik? And they were like, yes, we missed it. So this couple, because this girl at the counter from this airline, she told us, I don't have room for you in the plane. I'm so sorry. Like, I gave your seat to someone else. But then this couple arrived 30 minutes later and they're like, shit, like we've missed our flight. So we could have easily took their place. Mm-hmm. So that's when we realized, like, wait a second, like there was room in this plane for us. So anyways, we went back to the counter to do the line. It was like, we had to wait like 3 hours in the line. It was like in the middle of the night. And like everybody's complaining about the airline and stuff. And we're like talking with the couple and everything. And then at like 3 or 4 a.m., people at the counter, they're like, oh, sorry, we're closing the counter. Come back tomorrow.
After you waited 3 hours?
After we waited 3 hours.
I would cry again.
I cried again.
I would be in full tears.
I cried again. And at this time, I was still with my ex. And like, I was calling him every single hour. I didn't care. It was the middle of the night. And I was crying again and crying again. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, really dramatic. But still, it's like, who does that? Like, we've been waiting for 3 hours and you're just like, hey, sorry, come back tomorrow. Like, what?
Yeah.
So they were like, you can try calling them. So they gave us a number. And Julia and I, we were so tired. So we just like went we just like lay down on the floor. And like I had my AirPod and like I had like the waiting music in my ear. And like I was like half sleeping. And then Julie, after like 1 hour and a half, she wakes me up and she's like, B, look at this. There were 2 rats on the floor.
Next to you?
No, like a little bit further down, but still, they could easily come to us. Like, if we can see them, they can see us. Freaked out. And so, didn't really sleep. And then after like 2 hours of waiting on the phone, they finally answered. And then the girl was like, I'm sorry, it's your fault. Like, because you didn't tell us you weren't going to take your flight Montreal to Toronto. We just assumed you weren't taking Toronto to Reykjavik. We canceled. This is our policy. And at the beginning, she was literally saying, like, you have to buy another plane ticket.
Yeah, and you're already in a city that's not your home. So it's like you have nowhere to sleep, you have nowhere to go. You're also losing the first night in Iceland at the hotel.
Exactly. And she's like, what would we need to buy another plane ticket? Like, we bought this plane ticket. It's like kind of like, I know it's your policy, but it's stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid because they canceled and uncanceled.
Exactly.
So an hour is, I think, a long enough time where people are going to find a solution.
Exactly. And it's like, I don't know. It's just like, I didn't take the first one, but like, why would you cancel my second flight? And why is it so complicated to get on the second flight if I didn't take the first one? I just felt like it was stupid. So, anyways, on the phone, I'm like so mad and I'm so tired. I'm crying and I'm mad and I'm just like, so after like 30 minutes of arguing, I think she just gave up. And she was like, okay, I'll put you on a flight 48 hours later.
48 hours later.
48 hours later. And I was like, you know what? I'll take it. It's better than nothing. But then, so we changed, and then we had like to replan our whole schedule in Iceland. Like, we lost 2 days in Iceland. So we had like to call the rental car company, cancel like our hotel. We had to do all over again, like just redo everything. But anyways, we made it on time. And yeah, we just learned a lot from that. But then after, and this is why I sue them, is that the airline just like never acknowledged that they like kind of fucked up, and they were just like, I'm sorry, we're not gonna pay for your train ticket, we're not gonna pay for your hotel, we're not gonna pay for anything, this is all your fault. But then on their website they said that usually when you're refused to board the plane and it's their mistake, you can have like $2,400. And so that's why I was like, okay, like, because there were other problem with the same airline, I was like, I think it's worth it to try.
Yeah.
And then I'm glad I did. And 2 years later, I finally got my moment with them, and that's when I won the case. But 2 years later.
Did you have to go to court?
No, it was online. So in Canada, we have this thing that it's a French Canadian thing, but it's called petite créance. I don't know in English how to translate it, but when you sue someone for less than 10K,
small claims court.
Yeah, probably. So I don't need to have a lawyer, and the other company is not gonna won't have a lawyer. It's just like discussing with someone else from the company, and like there's like a mediator between us, and like we're just trying to like find something just by talking. So I was in Colombia when this happened, so it was just online, and then
that is insane, Beatrice.
That's crazy.
So frustrating, just because like
so
traveling is really exhausting, and I think you guys were trying to be proactive and okay, we'll take the train. It's also what, you're maybe 21 at the time?
22 maybe, yeah. But it was at the beginning of my journey of like traveling, like, well, this wasn't a solo travel, but I just came back from my first solo trip after, like, and I just like, I remember because, so what happened is that I went to Jordan and Egypt, got COVID there, and then between my trip, when I came back to Jordan and Iceland, there was 1 week, and I got COVID in Jordan. So I came back and I was so stressed because at this time you still had to have like negative test to like travel. And I was so stressed because I came back, I had COVID, and I had like 1 week to heal from COVID. And then the day before Iceland, I got the negative test. It was just like so stressful. Like the whole experience was so stressful. And I was still like a beginner at traveling, and like I did so many mistakes and stuff. I learned a lot during this summer of traveling.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I know. I did a couple performance gigs during COVID, and I had to fly internationally, and the coordination with the negative tests and getting the results in time,
so sketchy,
making sure it's a company that they accept, like it was so stressful. But obviously, like I chose to do it, so it was on me. But my only experience with missing a flight where it's like completely not my fault, because I've really only missed 2 flights. One because there was bad weather, so we all missed our connecting flight. But the other one was only 2 months ago in Guatemala.
What?
Where I had a flight the next morning, but I took an overnight bus from one of the places I was in. It was like supposed to be an 8-hour bus ride, but it turned out to be 13 hours.
Oh yeah, Central America.
So it was 5 hours late. So we were supposed to arrive at 5 a.m. My flight was at 9 a.m. So I was like, that's 4 hours.
Yeah,
like I will be completely fine. But by like 5 a.m., I look at the map and it still said we had like 4 or 5 hours left on the bus. And I was like, wait, what? Like that can't be real. So I kept like refreshing. And it was like, no, We still had 5 more hours. I was like, well, I already know I'm going to miss my flight. My flight was at 9 a.m. We're not arriving till 10.
Oh my god.
And so I start calling the airline. I start calling my credit card company because I booked my flight with points.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, this is so not my fault. It's out of my hands. What can I do? I'm on the phone for like an hour or two, on the bus, still not anywhere near Guatemala City. And long story short, they basically said because it was the bus company's fault that we were late and they're not connected to the airline, it's not the airline's fault.
Yeah.
So the airline just had me as a no-show. And if you're a no-show,
there's no chance.
You don't get like your money back or anything.
No.
And I couldn't even, to change my flight was more expensive than just buying a new flight because I was only going to Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah.
So I basically just had to like lose that whole flight, buy another flight. And there was nothing, I couldn't file a claim with my credit card because it was like they saw it as my fault, even though it was the bus company. I did get the ticket back for the bus company. But, you know, this is like just, this happens.
This happens. And I think that flights, I think everybody has crazy story with flights. I think this is like, it will happen.
Yeah.
It sucks, but it will happen.
Yeah, and I think that's also why it's important to like have a little bit more money than you think you're going to need for a trip.
Yeah.
Because situations like this can happen, and if it's an emergency where you need to buy another flight, you kind of need to have an option of like how you're going to book it.
Yeah, that's such a good tip.
Okay, unrelated to missing flights and everything, but I just remembered another crazy story that I had. This was like way before COVID though. It was in 2016, and I was working on a cruise ship as a singer again. And we were sailing through the Suez Canal, so around the coast of Somalia. And this was like my first week on this cruise ship. This is insane. But basically, as a lot of people know, Somalia has a lot of pirates.
Yeah.
And they come for ships passing the coast and they board. Like if you've seen the movie Captain Phillips with
No, I haven't.
Tom Hanks, it's based on a true story of pirates getting onto their ship and like holding the whole crew ransom and everything like this. And they just want money basically, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be really, really careful sailing past Somalia. So I'm in a 5,000 passenger brand new cruise ship. But it was only the staff on board this time because we had literally just picked up the ship in Germany and we were sailing through the Med, through the Suez Canal, and we were sailing to Asia. And the captain goes over the intercom and he says, okay, guys, like nobody is loud outside. Nobody is loud on the top deck. We're turning off every single light that's visible to the outside. So it was kind of crazy. We were sailing in pitch black. Obviously, the crew quarters is under the water. They don't have portholes, so the lights were fine down there. But anything that would be visible to outside was completely black.
Wow.
And this is a huge ship. So we also had pirate specialists on board. And it's really fun working on a cruise ship because we have a crew bar downstairs and everybody goes there at night to socialize.
Okay.
So it was me, and then I was really good friends with this band from England, and they were talking to the pirate specialist that night. And this was actually the day after we sailed past Somalia. So we sailed past Somalia. It was fine. Nothing happened. We didn't get any trouble.
Yeah.
The next day when we're in the crew bar, the pirate specialists tell us that they actually received a distress call from a boat that was sending out a radar that they really needed help and that they needed a near boat to stop and help them because they were in trouble. And the pirate specialist told the captain, absolutely not. We will not stop for any boat. There's no chance we're stopping because they're specialists. And then they told us that the same thing happened the next day. So the day that he was telling us this story, that this same boat sent out a distress call asking for help.
It's a trap.
A boat came to help them and they rocket launched the boat. They like literally sent a rocket launch. I don't know anything past that, but like it was a pirate boat.
It was a trap.
It was completely a trap.
Oh my God.
It was crazy.
It's crazy because when you're a kid, and when I was a teacher, like pirates, it's like kids love pirates. It's like, but it's kind of like, I don't know, you feel like it doesn't exist, you
Yeah.
know? Because it's such a kids thing, and it's like, oh, we're gonna have like a pirate team, and it's like, what do you want for your birthday? Oh, I want to be a pirate. You know, it's like such a kid thing, but it still exists and it's real.
I know. It was so real. It was
Oh
crazy.
my God, that's so scary. And I feel like some, like, because it makes me think about something also with both, but also in general. Like, it's crazy when something you do an experience and then the next day, like, it goes like so bad.
I know.
And I feel like, because it happened to me, like, when I was in Komodo Island in 2018 in Sierra, in Indonesia. I did this boat trip for 4 days, 3 nights. Amazing. And at this time, Komodo Islands was like not popular at all, like no tourists at all. It was amazing. And then we did this 4 days trip on the same boat, and we were with 8 people. Amazing. And then my friend and I, we flew back to Bali, and the next day we received a text from like the crew, because we became friends with the crew. They told us, hey, like, it was all over the news. Same boat, the same boat we were on just got exploded. Like, they stopped for like to see the Komodo dragon, and it like exploded. And I sent that to my parents, and they were like, what? Like, my parents were freaking out. I was 18 at the time, and they were like, why would, like, I thought this company was legit, blah blah blah, but it was a really legit company. It just like sometimes it happened. I don't know the full story.
But was it like a problem with the boat that it
I think
exploded?
it wasn't pirates, but I think it was a problem with the boat. Like, something exploded, but like the whole boat was on fire.
So it's probably just like an electrical issue or something where it
Yeah.
caught on fire. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't an attack, right?
No, it wasn't an attack, but it's still like, it's stuff like this, and I think it kind of happens often when you're traveling. It's like, whoa, I've been so lucky. Like, this thing, like, I just did this experience, and the next day, like, it just went like crazy. And the same happened in Colombia. I was supposed to go to Bogota. I canceled Bogota, and then there's an attack in Bogota. Like, a few tourists have been killed. It's like stuff like this that you're like, wait, like, the universe is protecting me at one point.
That's crazy. So I wonder if everybody lost their belongings. Like, because we obviously started this episode with the girl whose hostel burned down. All of
So
her,
true.
like, and then you had such a close call. Like, I'm curious, did everybody lose their things? Did they
I
say?
have no idea. I have no details. I just know that the next day, when we received this like article saying like this boat wasn't on fire, I have no idea what happened, but I just remember like freaking out, and I was like, whoa, we're so lucky. This could literally have been us.
That's
I don't
such a
think
close call.
Anybody died, because I think they were like on mainland looking for Komodo dragon, but the whole boat. So I guess their things were probably like all gone.
And then they're all stranded. Like, they'd have to have a rescue boat come.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't know the full story, but it's probably super complicated because you're like on an island with Komodo dragons.
Wow. You guys, we're going to have to do a part 2 and
Oh my
potentially a
God.
part 3
Yeah.
because we wrote down a list of our crazy stories. We still have like 10 that we haven't even talked about.
We were like, we're gonna say all of these in one episode.
There's just no way. We're going to have, and you know, by the time we make the part 2, there might be another one we add to the list.
Yes, and please send us your crazy stories. We want them, because I think it's nice to have like other stories and like share your crazy stories, because anyone traveling has at least one
Yeah.
or two.
We've
to
all been
share.
there. Okay. And so our creator of the week is actually the girl who the hostel story is about.
Yeah, so we didn't know her before that, but I think the hostel that burned out is really a good story. And she has a podcast. It's called For the Plotcast. And I think I love the name.
Such a good name.
Yeah, because I always told everyone that I wanted, as a tattoo, do it for the plot. And this is the whole goal of their, like, of their podcast. She's doing it with her best friend, and she took a gap year, and so she's traveling. She's not a solo traveler, I think. I'm not sure, but she's traveling with her best friend, and yeah, she has a podcast. They talk about what's happening in their travel, like do it for the plot. So I guess they have other crazy travel stories. Yeah, you can just go see her. It's Mafalda Vigidal. We'll put her link in the description of the episode.
Yes. So thank you so much. Like we said, please share your crazy stories. They're so interesting to read.
Yes, please.
And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.